You think men fall in love with beauty, with charm, with intelligence, and they do. But that is not what makes them stay. That is not what haunts them years later. That is not what they quietly crave when everything around them feels loud, cold, and exhausting. What they truly want, even if they do not know how to name it, is something rare, something they do not encounter often, something so subtle, they usually only recognize it once it is gone. They want softness, not weakness, not submission, but true, feminine softness. The kind that moves with grace, breathes in silence, listens without waiting to respond, and sees through people instead of around them. The kind of softness that comes from strength, not fear. That is what pulls them in. That is what stays with them long after the conversation ends and the room empties. Most men have never been given the space to soften. They walk through life with armor so thick, they forget who they were before the world demanded they be hard. And when they meet a woman who is soft in her nature but powerful in her presence, something inside them stirs. Not desire, recognition, because for the first time, they are not being asked to fight. They are not being tested. They are not being judged. They are simply being received, and that reception is disarming. She does not need to dominate the space. She is the space. She is calm in a world that is loud. She is warm in a world that is cold. She does not try to fix him. She does not try to heal him. She just allows him to exist beside her dot, and in that allowance, he begins to unravel, not into chaos, but into truth, into the version of himself he left behind years ago, before the noise, the performance, the pressure. He does not even understand what is happening to him. He only knows that when he is near her, he breathes easier. He listens more closely. He feels more alive. He does not want her because she is perfect. He wants her because she feels safe. Not safe like comfortable, safe like sacred, like something he knows he cannot replicate or replace. She holds herself with intention. She does not speak to impress. She does not move to attract. She does not give more than she wants to. And yet everything about her invites him to be honest. She offers him nothing to prove, nothing to chase, only presence. And that is what unravels him more than any desire ever could, because he is used to being desired for what he does, what he builds, what he protects. But with her, he is not a role. He is a man, a human, and she sees him before he even speaks. Her softness is not for show. It is not a strategy. It is who she became when she decided not to let the world turn her hard. She has been hurt. She has been overlooked. She has been misunderstood. But she did not close. She chose to remain open. And that choice is what makes her powerful. She is soft because she has survived. She is soft because she has done the work. She is soft because she has nothing left to prove. Men are drawn to that softness, not because it pleases them, but because it heals something deep in their nervous system, something they did not even know was broken. When she enters the room, she changes the temperature, not through drama, through energy, through stillness, through self-possession, and the man who meets her knows, even if he cannot admit it, that she is different. He may try to explain it to his friends, but the words will fail him. How do you explain the feeling of being understood without speaking? How do you explain the safety of not needing to perform? How do you explain the presence of a woman who does not try to be anything except whole? He may not be ready for her. That is often the tragedy, because softness demands presence. It asks for slowness. It calls for honesty. And if he is not ready to meet her in that space, she will leave. Not angrily, not loudly. She will simply choose herself. She has done it before. She has walked away from half-love, from noise disguised as connection, from men who saw her body but never her soul. She knows how to be alone, because being alone is not painful for someone who has made peace with herself. What is painful is shrinking. What is painful is pouring softness into hands that cannot hold it. What is painful is staying in rooms where her light is seen as too much or not enough. So she leaves, with quiet footsteps and a full heart, because even though it hurts to walk away, it hurts more to stay unrecognized than when she is gone. He feels it, not immediately, not in the way heartbreak usually hits, but slowly, in the silence after the conversation ends, in the way his coffee tastes more bitter, in the way the other women he meets feel louder but emptier. He starts to notice what is missing. He realizes that what he thought was peace with her was actually alignment. What he thought was ease was actually maturity. What he thought was calm was actually confidence. And then it hits him. She was not soft because she needed to be saved. She was soft because she had already saved herself. She had already walked through the fire, and instead of letting it harden her, she let it refine her. He starts to wonder if he will ever find her again. Not her, the person, but the energy, the frequency, the vibration of a woman who moves through life with that kind of clarity. And he starts to see what he could have become if he had stayed present, if he had listened more and reacted less, if he had spoken his truth instead of hiding behind fear, if he had met her with the same depth she met him with. But he didn't. He wasn't ready. And now she is gone. Not because she gave up, but because she chose growth. And growth does not wait for those who remain asleep. He begins to dream about her, not the memories, but the feeling, the warmth, the stillness, the acceptance. And each time he wakes up, the ache is deeper. Not because he wants her back, but because he knows he lost a version of himself he only knew through her. That is the final truth. The soft woman he once knew, she did not just offer him love, she offered him a glimpse of who he could be. And when she left, that version left too. She did not take it from him, he simply let it go when he let her go. And now he is surrounded by noise. Again, by women who demand, by conversations that perform, by days that move too fast. And in the middle of all that, he remembers her, the way her presence slowed him, the way her eyes asked questions without words, the way her silence made him feel heard. She was not just different, she was the mirror, the portal, the place his soul wanted to restand, now that rest is gone. And he does not know how to find it again, because softness like hers is not found, it is felt, it is recognized, it is respected. And once you lose it, you spend years looking for something you cannot name, something you cannot recreate, because what she gave you was not a performance, it was her, and now she gives it only to herself. Before we continue, if you are ready to explore your emotional patterns and deepen your self-awareness, take a look at the Jung method. It is a powerful tool to reconnect with your inner world and unlock the truth behind your relationships. The link is pinned in the first comment. *, he wakes up one day and realizes the silence feels different now. It is no longer peaceful. It is heavy still, not in the way it was when she was beside him, when her silence was full of presence. Now, it feels empty, because she is no longer in it. At first, he did not even know he was missing her. He distracted himself. He filled the hours with noise, with movement, with people who made him laugh, but never made him feel. But eventually, when the nights grew longer and the world around him slowed, something inside began to stir. Not regret exactly, not sorrow, something deeper. A longing for what he never quite understood while he had it. A longing for her softness, not just the tone of her voice or the warmth of her touch. The softness of how she lived. The softness in how she forgave without making a show of it. The softness in how she held space for his confusion without forcing him to explain. He realizes now that no one else offered him that kind of safety. No one else let him exist without pressure. Everyone else wanted him to be something, to say the right things, to act the right way. She just wanted him to be real, and when he was around her, he felt like he could be, not because she let him get away with less, but because she saw more than what he did. She saw the boy beneath the man. She saw the fear behind the anger. She saw the softness he had buried in himself just to survive. And now, without her, that part of him has gone quiet. Again, he tries to reach for it, but it does not respond, because it only awakened in her presence. That part of him only trusted her, because she never tried to force it open. She waited, she listened, she created a space where it could breathe. He remembers the way she used to sit across from him and look into him, not through him, not around him, into him, without flinching, without fixing, just witnessing. And in that stillness, something inside of him started to trust again, but he did not know how to hold it. He was not ready. Not then. He did not know how to honor something so gentle without fearing he might break it. He thought his silence would protect her. He thought his distance would give her room. He thought that if he kept things light, he would not ruin what they had. But in doing so, he let it die slowly. He sees it now, in how she no longer responds, in how she no longer checks in how her voice no longer echoes in his messages. She is still alive, still radiant, still soft, but that softness is no longer directed at him. She has reclaimed it. She has taken it back, not in spite, not in anger, but in truth, because she gave him her softness without condition. She poured it into the spaces he left empty. And when he did not meet her there, she stopped waiting, not suddenly, slowly, gracefully, like the sun setting behind the hills. And now, the landscape feels cold. He walked through his days trying to recreate what he once felt so naturally. But now it takes effort, it takes energy, and it never feels quite right. He talks to other women. Some are kind, some are thoughtful, some are beautiful in ways he admires. But none of them hold him the way she did. Not physically, emotionally, energetically. They listen with curiosity, not with compassion. They ask questions, but not the ones that matter. They are present, but not still. They are available, but not rooted. He begins to understand that what she gave him was not attention. It was sanctuary. She had become a refuge, a place where he could take off the armor and rest, not be weak, just be real. And now, he cannot seem to find that space again. Because that space lived in her, and she is gone. Not out of bitterness, not out of punishment. She simply moved forward. She chose to stop waiting for someone to notice the value of what she offered. She chose to stop trying to convince anyone that softness is not a weakness, because it never was. She is still soft, but now her softness has boundaries. Now, it is sacred. Now, it is no longer handed over to anyone who does not recognize it. She has stopped explaining herself, stopped proving her worth, stopped lowering her voice just to be allowed in the room. She speaks now with clarity. She walks with peace. She gives her softness to those who are ready, not those who are curious. And he sees it. From afar, he watches how her energy still transforms spaces, how her smile still quiets the noise, how people are drawn to her without knowing why. He knows why, because she is real. She is not performing. She is not seeking validation. She is not trying to be more than she is. She is simply grounded in herself, and he remembers how rare that is, how he felt it the first time they met. The stillness, the calm, the feeling that maybe, just maybe, he had found someone who would not ask him to be anything but himself. And that scared him, not because she was too much, but because she asked him to be present. And presence was something he had always run from. Now, all he wants is one more moment like that. One more morning where her silence wrapped around his chaos. One more night where her hand on his chest reminded him that he could breathe again. One more conversation where she looked at him not with judgment, but with understanding. But those moments are no longer his. Because softness like that is not a possession, it is a gift. And when it is not honored, it disappears. Not in anger, in wisdom. She has learned that not everyone deserves access to her softness, that some people will confuse her peace for passivity, that some will take until she is empty, and she will never let herself be empty again, because now she is full. Not because of him, because of herself. She has become the home she used to offer others. She has built safety within her own bones. She no longer needs to be held. She holds herself, and she does not wait for apologies. She does not search for closure. She does not scroll through memories hoping to feel something again. She feels everything. She remembers everything. And still, she walks forward, because her softness is no longer a doorway. It is a garden, and only those who tend to it with care are allowed in. He was once allowed in. He knows this, and he remembers how it felt. He remembers how he slept better beside her. How his thoughts slowed down, how his breathing changed when she entered the room. He remembers how he smiled more, how he listened more, how he became more of the man he always wanted to be. And that is the part that lingers. He misses her, but more than that, he misses himself with her. The version of him that only came alive in her presence, because she never asked him to change. She invited him to return, to himself, to his truth, to his heart, and he didn't understand it then. He does now. But understanding is not the same as receiving, on what he understands now can no longer be given back. She has moved on. She still lives with the same softness, but it belongs to her now. It is no longer something she gives without discernment, and that is the difference. She has not become hard. She has become wise. She has not built walls. She has planted roots. She does not raise her voice, because her presence speaks louder than words. She does not chase. She attracts. She does not explain. She embodies, and that is what makes her unforgettable. Not because she stayed, but because of how she left. Not because she needed him, but because she never needed anything but herself. And now, as he sits in a life full of movement but void of meaning, he remembers the quiet moments, the pauses, the deep breaths, the laughter that felt like medicine, the love that felt like truth. He does not cry for her. He smiles for what she was. He aches for what he missed, and he hopes, quietly, that she is being held now in all the ways she once held him, because that kind of woman does not come twice. And once you have known her, you are never the same.